إن المتقين في مقام أمين في جنات وعيون يلبسون من سندس وإستبرق متقابلين.
I was brought up in an Irish Catholic family. Very Catholic. A lot of priests and nuns in the family. We were not just churchgoers. I mean, my grandparents, they probably said the rosary every night of their lives till they died in their 90s. And I wanted to become a priest. My grandmother used to set up the dining room table, and I would practice saying the Mass at the dining room table. I went to a private Catholic boys' high school, so I would ask questions, and the answers, if they didn't have a good answer, they'd say, well, you have to take it on faith. And that wasn't doing it for me. One of the things that sort of troubled me was the role of Jesus, peace be upon him, as the Son of God. If God's God, why does he need a son? That's how I sort of just evolved into sort of being a loose soul. For me, two of the things that I thought. One, I like simplicity in a religion. It's not about the pomp and ceremony. It's not about the gold and the stained glass windows and the statues. It's about God. When 9/11 hit, I was like a lot of Westerners. You know, let's go over here and bomb those guys. But it was something that didn't fit for me, because I would hear these imams get on the news and talk about this isn't Islam, this isn't the way that Islam is intended to be. And so that started my brain going around about it. I thought, well, I'm going to read this Quran and see what it's about. And I started reading it, and then I put it away. And I left it for several years. And then with all that took place with ISIS and the Taliban, I got interested again. My doctor happened to be a Muslim, Dr. RAZA Khan.
So he came in approximately summer 2009 into our practice, and that's when I formally became his family physician. He had mentioned that he was very disturbed about 9/11, and that first, you know, he wanted to get up his pitchfork like everybody else and go bomb Afghanistan.
Dr. Khan invited me to dinner at his place. We sat and talked for maybe a couple of hours. I was impressed because his wife came and signaled to me. He said, do you mind excusing me while I go to pray? And I thought, well, this is interesting.
He made the funny comment that he found, reading the Quran, he found the text quite disjointed, and he thought it's almost as if a drunk had written this book. And I just chuckled when I heard that. I suggested to him, you know, if you want, why don't we go for coffee or something sometime?
He said, I have a book that you might find interesting. And he gave me the book, Life of the Prophet by Martin Lings. And that was great. He said, the other thing is the Quran you're reading is not the best version. Number one, it doesn't have a commentary. And number two, it's not a very good translation. He gave me a lead on what Quran I could get. And I really didn't do much with it. I sort of read the book, but I didn't read it wholeheartedly, but something kept gnawing at the back of my mind on it. And finally, one day I got the book out again and I read it again. But this time I read it like really trying to read it. And that turned me on. And I read the whole Quran with the translation, with the commentary, which helped explain it to me better. And those things piqued my interest. That's how I got started. As a child, as a young Catholic boy, I was pretty emotional about my prayers. And I couldn't find that. I couldn't find that warmth. And when I read about people becoming Muslim and they read or heard someone reading the Quran, they broke down and cried, became a Muslim. I can't understand that. I could never do that. That would be doing it from the wrong end of the coin. I had to get it here first, and I'm still trying to get it here where I want it.
What I do remember was I asked him, do you believe that God is one? He said, yes. I said, do you believe that the Quran is a message from God? He said, yes. I said, do you believe that Muhammad is a messenger of God? He said, yes. I said, you're Muslim. And like, it wasn't going to be that easy.
If these things create questions in my mind, I need to explore them. I can't just calmly sit by and say, oh, well, I accept it on faith. That was one of my criticisms of my Catholic faith, was that every time I got something that was a challenge, I got, well, you have to accept it on faith. He said, why don't you come on Friday to the Hamilton Mosque with me to prayers? And I said, sure, I'll come. So I got there, and I'll never forget that Friday afternoon. There's like 750, maybe 1,000 people there. And I'm sitting there not knowing what to do. And they start, and I'm looking around this room, and I'm seeing all these non-white faces. And I thought to myself, what am I doing here? I mean, I'm encroaching on these people's religion and their culture. I have no business being here. And I was sort of bothered by it. Sat on it for a week and decided I'm going to go to the Brantford Mosque, because I lived in Brantford, not Hamilton.
In 2017, in the month of August, Michael started to come to the mosque. So first impression, he gave us that he is interested in learning about Islam, and he has lots of questions, of course. So every time he asked me questions, I used to give him, okay, there are 2 opinions, 3 opinions, 4 opinions. And he said, why there are so many opinions? And this is one of the struggle area, according to my understanding, that to understand the diversity of Islamic culture, Islamic understanding within one book, one religion. And it took a while for him to understand. One good thing about Mike is that if he could not understand, or my logic was not very convincing, he would still challenge you. He will still ask you different questions to get clarified.
You know, it wasn't just me teaching him. I was learning from him as well. He would ask the kind of questions that I said, whoa, I never thought of that. That makes so much sense. And he, you know, I was learning too from him. For example, he gave the idea of dogs, like it's kind of discouraged for a Muslim to own a dog. He said, well, why? Like, if that's the case, then I could have my dog in my house and the angels aren't going to come and see the bad things I'm doing. You know, he would put it in those kind of strange, quirky things that you never think about, right? You just kind of accept that, yeah, okay, well, something about dogs. And he was not the kind, like, he took his time. He didn't just say blindly, oh yeah, I believe in one God, I'm a Muslim. He took his time. This is such a monumental decision, to change your entire playbook and to replace it with a completely different one that is very foreign to what you're used to. I would tell him something. I would say, well, you know, alcohol is discouraged, it's forbidden in Islam. And to my shock, he tells me, okay, well, I have about $1,000 worth of alcohol in my cupboard. He asked me, well, can I just give it to somebody? And I said, yeah, but you know, it's kind of wrong. You're giving something bad to somebody, and it's kind of looked down upon.
I poured it all down the drain, including a very expensive bottle of rare wine. Broke my heart to see that go, but I did that. If I'm going to consider this as a way of life for me, I'm going to really have to experience the life of a Muslim.
He was adopting Muslim habits and traits and mannerisms even before he had taken his Shahada formally. He was fasting optional fast, nafil fasts, even before he had accepted Islam formally. He was doing the fast of Arafat. When I wasn't even fasting Arafat. I said, oh my God, you're making me look bad, Mike. He was doing stuff that Muslims are supposed to do that I wasn't doing. I felt so ashamed. So then I started saying, well, if Mike's doing it, I better do it too.
One of the key points he showed us from the beginning is this. He would like to practice Islamic rituals before he is ready to accept Islam. Usually it's opposite. People come to learn about Islam, then they start practicing or joining some rituals. But Michael, from the first day, what he conveyed to us, I'm here to experience Muslim culture, Muslim rituals, your prayer service and other things. And faith, through this practice, I may understand your faith better. I never seen any person who is that much organized. He came to me in first few days with huge folder, and it has lots of his collections, his research, his questions, and everything very well organized. Weekly, it's a study plan, and with his study materials. And each chapter he had lots of questions.
I started studying. I put together a curriculum, just like a university curriculum. I had classes on different subjects all day, every day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. The reading, the studying, I've read the Quran probably, I don't know how many times, several times. I found that I would do this for 6 to 8 hours a day and set time aside in my schedule for my prayer times. And that's what I did. I stopped watching as much TV.
He came to me with his folder, with his ideas, that I understand how difficult, how challenging my journey was from non-Muslim to Muslim. And many times when we address the new Muslims, we don't necessarily understand their challenges, because this is new journey for them and their background is different than my background.
He was learning how to do salah. And the Imam basically was saying, well, just say it in English because Allah created language. He'll understand you. But Mike was not satisfied with that. He had to do it properly. And so he wanted to learn salah. How to say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.
Dr. Khan's son, Hamza, volunteered. I think his father conscripted him, but he volunteered to help me learn my prayers in Arabic.
So I thought, why don't we start by saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the merciful. And that was the very first thing that I taught Brother Mike on the very first day I sat down with him. I remember he would have minor pronunciation mistakes, but I would ignore that because he already said Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim in the most beautiful way as he could. And I encouraged him. Afterwards, I started teaching him the other phrases: praises be to Allah, Alhamdulillah, glory be to Allah, and how to do dhikr, which is remembrance of Allah on the prayer beads, even seeking forgiveness from Allah. Afterwards, I taught him the different surahs of the Quran. He knows, mashallah, Surah Fatiha, Surah Ikhlas, the small surahs, essentially. He did pretty much everything on his own.
Let me tell you, he didn't just meet for me with an hour on Saturday or Sunday to do it. He recorded iTunes videos of the prayers word by word. And then he would say them slowly, word by word. Then he'd say them at normal speed. And he did it ayah by ayah so that I could. And then we'd meet on Saturday and we'd go through them. He'd help correct me. And then I started praying in Arabic. And then I started doing all the sunnahs. Then I started praying the night prayers.
This guy is an amazing man for research and for educating himself. And he was basically on a mission to seek knowledge. And I think personally, mashallah, this is how Allah, sorry. This is how Allah has mercy on somebody when he sees that somebody is making an effort to seek knowledge. Mike said something profound that I just learned. After all, this is about my life. This is about my soul. And you know what? He's absolutely right. We only live in this world once. We have one go at it, and we got to get it right. because one day we're going to die. And then we hand in our exam paper. And Mike was at a stage in his life. He was down, he was looking for answers. It was like a perfect storm, I guess. But Allah is the one that shapes and fashions the situations around somebody where he comes to the realization that he has to find the meaning of his life.
I made a plan that said, I will try this until the end of the year. By December 31st, I need to make a decision, a go, no-go decision. Is this right for me? Is it wrong? But what I found as I went along, two things happened. The more I prayed, the more I found myself drawn into the religion. And the more I found my life changing, my behavior changed. And so I would go to a Fajr breakfast with the brothers, and they would get on my case. You should do your Shahada. You should do your Shahada. You're a Muslim. You're a Muslim. I said, I'm not a Muslim because I'm not convinced. I need time. But you're living like a Muslim. You're a Muslim. And I said, no, not yet. When I'm ready, I'm ready.
A week before the end of October, that's when he said that I'm thinking of taking the Shahada. I'm ready to become Muslim.
Usually people ask us how to say Shahada. But Arabic pronunciation is always a difficult one. So we don't actually prepare a new Muslim to, with Arabic pronunciation, with the whole phrase, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah, that I bear witness there is no deity worthy to be worshipped but Allah alone, and Muhammad is his final messenger. But Michael was different, and this one, he said, please come and help me to understand and practice Arabic one. Number one, I don't want Imam to say and repeat, I repeat after you, Arabic one. I would like to say my Shahada by my own, in Arabic.
I guess around 7th or 8th of October, I really came to the conclusion, I think this is the right thing to do. So I let the Imam know that I was ready to do my Shahada. Did it on October the 13th, 2017.
And on that Friday, he made his Shahada without my help. He just declared it by himself. This is one of the unique things he did.
Anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Okay. In English? Yes. I bear witness that there is no God except Allah, and I bear witness, and He alone has the right to be worshipped. I bear witness that Muhammad is His slave and messenger.
Takbir. Allah. Takbir.
I was overwhelmed that day. I said, wow, like, this is actually happening, because I've never been a part of anybody's life up to that point in their transformation to become a Muslim. And I watched Mike continue his journey.
Dr. RAZA Khan, he's been my mentor. And if it wasn't for him, I'm sure I would not be here today. He was my doctor, and he finally got to the point where he had to tell me I needed to find another doctor because he ethically couldn't look after me because I become part of his family. He invited me to be a witness at his daughter's wedding. His family have been so good to me. His parents, I mean, it's like my family.
Mike has always been a very calm person, but he was more relaxed. He was more at peace. He was always the kind of person who related very well with me and with youth. He was very balanced. He wasn't panicking because he knew that Allah is sufficient for him and that he has reached the truth.
And he was expending his resources to make sure that his knowledge, he was buying these amazing books that I didn't even know these books existed. And he's even gifted books to me as well. And these are amazing books that are even helping me in my spiritual development.
This is my library that I put together of my books about Islam and to help me, guide me and increase my knowledge. So I keep adding to the library. I got a couple more books coming in, like several copies of the Quran, several versions of the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, books on Hadith, I've read them all, or a couple of them I haven't quite finished yet. You know, one of my go-to books is the Study Quran, which has really been helpful for me in understanding some of the interpretations of the verses. So my goal is, I love books, so my goal is to build this library over time with meaningful books and increase my knowledge.
One thing that Mike did say that he was struggling with, he said, when I read Quran, it's like I don't feel anything. When I'm doing my salah, I don't feel anything. I just feel like I'm saying random words. But then he started talking about Surah Nur, and he had tears in his eyes. He was crying. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is amazing. I told him, you are connecting with Allah. It is happening. And when he would talk about Quranic ayahs, certain Quranic ayahs, he would start to get tears in his eyes. And you know what? It's one thing just to memorize a bunch of words and a bunch of theories and a bunch of knowledge. But it's another thing to connect with your Creator.
I found that one of the frustrations in this whole process for me was that there's no place to go to get instruction to be a Muslim. And that was really, really frustrating. And in fact, I almost gave it up a couple of times because I felt like it wasn't, like the imams that I met were very helpful, but they weren't giving me true instruction. And so I came to the conclusion that if I want to be a Muslim, if I want to follow this up, I think Allah's put the first challenge in front of me, and that He says, it's up to you, that this is a self-education process. So if you want to become a Muslim, you have to take the initiative, and that's what I did.
So he came up with the whole program for new Muslims, that how you teach new Muslim, how you actually make your topic, your talk more relevant to new Muslim, that actually make new Muslim interested in Islam, to understand easily, as well as involve them with their new faith.
He has moved out of town. He's now in London, and he is flourishing in that community, and he's making amazing contributions even there.
This is another thing, is that before he moved to London, he contacted me. He says, I'm going to London. Can you connect me with any imam in London so I could be connected with the Muslim community? So this is another beautiful thing I experienced in him, is that many new Muslims, they accept Islam and they go by themselves because of the reality of life. But as far as Michael is concerned, he was part of this community, he was part of this mosque. He made sure before he left this city, he knows the imam, he knows the masjid of that community, and he made sure that they also know and they have reference.
Initially, he would come for prayer, especially the Dhuhr prayer. But then eventually there was some social gatherings, the Tuesday halaqah with the imam, it's coffee with the imams, who would be more involved. And every time we would organize something in the masjid, he would be willing to participate, something like a potluck. He would always bring food. He always, once we had a workshop or any different workshops, he would participate as well, to learn and share his ideas, share his opinions. He actually made a business proposal, because I think that's his background, right? He made a business proposal, and then he gave it to the board, and it got approved. And then, mashallah, it went on. And then I remember the first meeting we had, it was at the masjid. So, mashallah, it was a very good initiative. And he found out that if there's no programs that fulfill what he needs, he actually took the initiative, and he went on and he created this initiative.
I try to be as involved as I can. I wanted to try and start a program, and I still want to do it for reverts. I made a decision. I wanted to learn to read the Quran, and for me, believe me, that's a challenge. But I've been working at it. My brother Saul has helped me. We do video conferencing. I have to read a surah or ayah in the Quran. He reads it back to me. Then we read the English and discuss it. And we've been working our way through that.
Brother Michael he knew already the alphabets and knew how to read them and so on.
He has the patience of Job, I'll tell you, because I would have shot me before now. But I still am at the point where I read the Quran haltingly. word by word, sounding out words still. He says I've made pretty good progress, but I'm not satisfied. It's not where I think it needs to be.
My grandson, actually, he loves him, loves talking to him. So I would say he's been friends to the 3 generations we have in my place. The brother is more than a friend.
I'm trying to learn and absorb as much as I can about Islam and understand my religion and understand better how to enhance my relationship with God. I sometimes question myself, you know, I literally say to myself, am I kidding myself here? Am I sincere enough? Is Allah even hearing my prayers? Sorry, but that bothers me. Sometimes I feel like I don't do my prayers well enough. I find my mind wanders, and then brothers tell me, well, that happens to everybody. But the truth is, that's not acceptable to me. I did the 5 prayers every day. And I can tell you, since I started that in June of 2017, I haven't missed a prayer yet. Came close, but I haven't missed one. I look at it this way. When I reverted, I was 73 years old. I'm 75 today. To think of me making this change in my life, a radical change in my life at that age, is something that I don't think is really that common. Because if we look at what happens in our lives, we build belief systems. So when people think I'm crazy, you have to understand I had that belief system. But something changed in me that really said, hey, and this took 40 years, that belief system maybe isn't as solid as you think it is, and it began to fall apart because it wasn't solid enough. It was artificial in a way. And so, you know, that's, to me, I've started building a new belief system, and I'm building it one leg at a time. And I'm doing it on my terms. I'm not having someone else force it onto me. It's not that I was brought up to be Muslim. I've made a choice to be Muslim. So, you know, I'm taking it a step at a time. I actually had a young man I helped recently who reverted. And the first thing I would tell him is what I was told. Learn about the story of the Prophet, peace be upon him. That's where to start. That will help bring it all into focus for you. Because if you start with other stuff, it's confusing. So I would tell them that. And then I would tell them to get some mentors. I'd be glad to help them. Or if there's someone they know or trust in the mosque, get someone that's knowledgeable, and don't be shy about asking them for help. And sit down with the Imam and try to lay out a program for yourself. Get someone that knows Islam to help give you some guidance on the things you want to research and understand. And it's not a race. This is not a 100-yard dash. This is a lifetime marathon. One of the things that if everybody knew how welcoming Islam is, we would not have Islamophobia. Because it's just welcome me with open arms. I've never met anyone that has been less than welcoming. All we hear in the media about all that goes on in other parts of the world is distorted. It's a distortion about Islam. And I wish that there was some way we could get the message out that that is not Islam. Islam is a loving, caring religion. And it focuses on one thing, Allah.